Hello and welcome to Voices of Agriculture here on RFD. I'm Gene Hall. We're coming to you this time from the Lone Star State of Texas and from our new studios in Waco, Texas. The drought of 2008 and 2009 hit much of this state of Texas very, very hard. We're going to revisit some of those areas when we come back right after this.
It's a grassroots voice in Austin and Washington for farmers and ranchers like me.
It's educational and scholarship opportunities for young people like me.
It's money-saving benefits for member families
like us.
What is Texas Farm Bureau? I am.
I am.
I am.
Our cameras covered the devastating drought of 2008 and 2009 and its impact on the state of Texas. Now that the rains have begun falling again, we sent Matt Felder out. Here's Matt with that story.
East of Taylor, Steve Hubnick has to worry about sticking his John Deere Gator while making the rounds on his pastures. Old cracked work boots have been traded in for those watertight and made of rubber. His tanks were crusted craters and mud hole death traps for his cattle just a year ago. Today, they overflow with plenty.
The grass, although it's minute in size, is here for the cattle to think they have a lot of grazing. Everything looks much more promising.
Hubnick's cattle are easily viewed grazing the dips and rises of his land. The once sproutless wheat fields today blanket the plains of central Texas. David Kraft walked a barren wasteland on his family's New Braunfels farm. Nothing would grow, not even weeds. Rain this past winter has transformed the parched plains into an oasis. Lush green oats have sprouted, and with them, a new sense of optimism.
We've been fortunate this year, and we've got some moisture, and everything's looking good to where we can maybe actually make a crop.
The family farm has bared the Kraft name since 1895. Last year was the first time in history crops didn't make it to harvest. Kraft's neighbor, Corbin Chrysler, knew all too well the fate of the seed he sowed. The end result was nothing more than an insurance check arriving in the mailbox. It's not the vision farmers such as he has when it comes to dreams of living off the land. Today, working his corn into the ground, he knows this year's final chapter will pen a new ending. The seed will sprout.
We'd rather have a crop. We'd rather have the grass instead of hay. We'd rather have the moisture instead of the dryness.
In Marble Falls, a sigh of relief can be detected through the Burnham brothers' return swagger. The family legacy, established in 1852, survived with the cattle herd intact.
Selling out is just, that's the last resort for us, because we're ranchers at heart, and that's our life.
All the Burnham's cattle were raised on the ranch by hand. The family has experienced and persevered through tough times before. However, 2009 brought with it the biggest blow. The Burnhams turned to a nuisance to sustain their cattle, prickly pear cactus. Armed with a propane tank and blowtorch, the elder gentleman set out in the blazing Texas sun, scorching the spines with each pass. The plan worked, but food was only half the battle.
Water was the issue. We were scrambling, and everybody was scrambling. A lot of people had to sell because there was no water.
A few spotty showers in May helped the herd survive the blistering summer. However, the situation remained desperate.
We could have maybe gone another 30 to 60 days, and that would have been it. There was no hay. We were out of pears. We were out of water. It was just about over for us.
Then the showers fell. Tanks filled. Winter weeds and grasses seemed to jump out of the ground. Supplemental feeding remains a daily chore as calves continue to hit the ground. The rattle and clank of the feeder trailer's door signals the morning feast. Thankfully, it will soon joy the pear burners.
Well, we put those old pear burners up and probably going to put them in a museum one of these days, because I think we're done with that for a long time. Hopefully won't ever have to do it again.
At the Hallettsville Livestock Commission, the thought of folding the tents and packing up have passed, and just in the nick of time.
One more year of that, it'd have been over with. I mean, we would have just been completely out of the cattle business, really. It was that bad.
Cattle were arriving by the trailer loads, 2,600 to 2,800 sold on sale day every week, a surefire sign of but one thing: liquidation. Today, restocking specials are being held for the first time in years, but prices have rose and cash is in short supply, as cattlemen overspent on hay and feed while taking a cut on income.
We'll start replacing some numbers, but it won't be done in 1 year. It'll take 2 or 3 years to get our numbers back where they were. It's not a short-term deal. It's still going to take some time.
As seen through the faces of those who stake their livelihoods on the furrows and pastures of Texas, there's a renewed optimism. Droughts are nothing new. However, 2009 was exceptional in many parts of Texas.
I think it's going to be a drought record for a long time, hopefully. Hopefully we won't have to go through anything like that again.
Farmers and ranchers persevered, clinging to one certainty. Each day brought them closer to the rain they hoped for with desperation. The opposite rings true today.
Everybody says, oh, it's going to be a good year. Well, it's not done yet. And I mean, the last rain we got might be the last one we'll get. You never know.
The drought didn't happen overnight, and the same can be said for the road to recovery. Producers are on the mend and have but one trait to carry them through: determination. For Voices of Agriculture, Matt Felder, Texas.
There's an old saying, if you give a man a fish, he'll eat for a day. If you teach him to fish, he'll eat for the rest of his days. That's the theory behind World Hunger Relief. Ed Wolf has that story.
Americans live in the land of plenty. Luscious greens, hearty meats, endless aisles of canned and boxed foods line the shelves of supermarkets. Most folks don't give a second thought to how it gets there.
Whether you're a kid and your dad's a commodity farmer, or whether your dad's living, working on Wall Street, the food system is way more complicated than most of us understand.
Chartered in 1976, World Hunger Relief quickly developed programs from academics and hands-on experience, training individuals on how to best use resources to alleviate hunger and poverty around the world. Since, World Hunger Relief has trained over 300 interns working in 20 countries spanning 4 continents.
Gone from just a handful of people living and working here on the farm to, at any one point in time, we've got probably 30 people that live here.
The organization is unique in the fact that it combines classroom instruction with a working farm, a laboratory for training. There are projects geared to Central Texas and the realities of a developing world. Most work is done by hand, as electricity and money to buy equipment can be hard to come by.
They really do put a lot of responsibility in the hands of the interns, and so it's a little scary at first, but it really does give a higher quality, I think, of education.
You do something different every single day. You never have the same task repeated. Maybe months from now we'll be doing the same thing again, but you're learning something different every single day.
Each intern stays for about 13 months and is charged with running one of the organization's small businesses. In the case of goats, interns are responsible for everything: care, milking, and marketing the milk.
Farmers around the world, even if they are growing for themselves, do need to be selling something in order to pay for school fees or whatever other costs are involved. And so all farms are a small business.
Not everyone who shows up has a green thumb. Elise Voivodik is a live-in volunteer whose past is far from agriculture.
Suburbs of Denver. So, not at all. It's very different and new for me.
As an undergrad at nearby Baylor University, Voivodik would come out to the farm once a week to unearth new knowledge. Today, she spends her time studying and learning more about gardening and various herbs.
I think it's important to kind of understand where your food comes from and understand the process of how things get from kind of point A to point B, and what seems like waste ends up being used to create new life.
30% of the farm's budget comes from selling what is grown on the 40 acres. Demand is high. Various products sell out quickly, and you'll most likely end up on a waiting list. The other 2/3 of the budget comes from individual donors and grant support from foundations and businesses. The organization is branching out into a consulting role for groups around the world that want to demonstrate agricultural improvements. World Hunger Relief even works with schools and other organizations to form garden clubs. Field trips to the farm are a common, almost daily routine. Kids get down and dirty with the products and processes that put food on their dinner table every night.
I think when we begin to value that, then we also can make the connection to start valuing the people who are raising all that food for us around the world.
The future looks bright for World Hunger Relief. Leaders hope to become more involved both locally and internationally, searching for research-based models to ensure students get the best experience possible. For Voices of Agriculture, Ed Wolf, Waco.
More of Voices of Agriculture right after these messages.
Attending college is a goal of many young people, but getting on campus is very expensive. That's where Texas Farm Bureau can help. As members of the Texas Farm Bureau, students can compete for thousands of dollars in scholarships through Texas Farm Bureau's annual statewide contests. Free enterprise speech, Talent Find, and Miss TFB. The Texas Farm Bureau, making a difference for agriculture and rural Texas.
Decades ago, Americans started leaving the farm for other professions and pursuits. The farmers that stayed fed America and much of the world. Today we grow more food than ever, and it's better, safer, and healthier. We live in the land of plenty, thanks to modern agricultural technology and the skills of our farm and ranch families. This message is brought to you by the Texas Farm Bureau, the voice of Texas agriculture. Today's abundance of food and fiber is brought to you by America's farmers and ranchers.
Feral cats, domestic cats and their descendants, are quite a nuisance in many parts of Texas. Well, there's a new program that might offer a new career for many of these feral cats. Matt Felder has that story.
They say cats have 9 lives. That age-old saying seems to ring true for the growing number of feral felines in the Lone Star State. Cats are abandoned and left to live on the wild side, breeding freely. Organizations have popped up to curb the population, offering to trap these cat colonies ranging from 2 to 2 dozen. Best case scenario, they are spayed, neutered, and returned to their original location. But sometimes cats have to be relocated. That's when Peggy Atkerson goes to work. Atkerson is founder of Barn Cats, Inc., a nonprofit organization whose sole goal is to get feral felines out of harm's way.
These are non-domesticated cats. These are feral cats. They are not pets. Nobody wants our cats at Petco or PetSmart because they're hissy and spitty and all that sort of thing, and they don't want to be around people.
Instead, these cats are pulled from the unemployment line and put to work. Although many feral cats depend on humans for food, they don't necessarily want to be around people. That's why a barn, shed, or warehouse, even golf course homes are perfect locations for these mouse maulers.
These little guys will work for food. They think it's a game. They don't know they're working.
Atkerson says her program is about 77% successful in relocation. Predators such as coyotes can be a threat to the cats, but the risk is better than the alternative.
If these cats are trapped and end up at, let's say, Animal Services in Dallas or wherever, they're going to get immediately euthanized because they can't handle them.
Instead, they come to Atkerson's home and go into one of the many large cages stacked in the back room. The cats are fixed, tested for feline leukemia, rabies, and given a round of shots.
You want to go to your new home today? Yeah.
Every month, Atkerson places about 50 cats in new locations, about 7 to 10 each weekend. There is no cost, only the request of a small donation to keep barn cats afloat. Cats that are usually trapped together are relocated together. It usually leads to a better stay rate. For 2 weeks, the felines will stay in 6-foot cages inside their new home, getting to know the sights, sounds, and smells. Food, water, and a litter box are all provided for the transition. Once the 2 weeks have passed, the cages are opened up and the newcomers are able to explore their surroundings. The cages remain for another week, but after that, all responsibility switches to the new owner.
I had lots of rats in this barn, and I don't have any. I have no evidence of rats. I have nothing.
Wong has taken in 6 cats altogether from Barn Cats. For her, it means no more holes in horse feed, chewed up tack, or electrical wire on farm equipment. Groups all over the country are beginning to duplicate Barn Cats' vision. It's been 7 years and counting for Atkerson, a vision she plans to continue, meeting a growing need in society.
The feral cats are the forgotten cats in our society, but we've been doing this for 7 years and we still have all 10 fingers. We think that's our best advertising.
For Voices of Agriculture, Matt Felder, North Texas.
We have a new broadcast partner here on Voices of Agriculture from Texas, and that's the Natural Resources Conservation Service. Reporter Bob Stobaugh takes a look at conservation efforts around Texas.
When Deborah Clark and her husband Emery purchased the Birdwell Ranch in north central Texas, they set out to raise livestock, but soon found the ranch had more to offer.
So on January 30th, 2004, we packed up lock, stock, and barrel, every saddle, every dog, every horse, and moved up here to Clay County.
With Emery handling the 5,500 head cattle operation, Deborah set about improving the wildlife habitat on the ranch.
When we first came up here to Clay County, we drove onto this ranch, and the first thing we saw were a pair of covey flush. Not a pair, we saw a covey flush. It was like, whoa, this is an omen. This is a great omen. We started off, though, trying to manage for quail. first and foremost, everything we do in terms of grazing dictates our way of life out here. And grazing dictated then the quail habitat management plan. We always try from day one to leave enough cover. So when we come into a pasture or cell paddock, our goal is to make sure that we move those cattle and that there's still cover left for the quail.
She attended workshops on wildlife management sponsored by the Texas Farm Bureau and the USDA's Natural Resources Conservation Service, NRCS. It was there that she learned the value of riparian areas adjacent to their pastures.
Riparian areas are important. Traditionally, we didn't really look at them very much as range specialists. We didn't really consider them as part of the upland, but what we're really finding out as part of the recent science, they're really an integral part of the landscape and of the ecological system. In addition to the benefits for water quality and water quantity, these make excellent wildlife areas, wildlife strips where just a tremendous abundance of wildlife that can move through these areas. There's forage for them, there's cover for them, there's water for them. They're pretty good areas for that.
I didn't know what NRCS meant from, ESPN. So we got involved in it, but I just know that going to these workshops, they were telling us that there were dollars available. Not just dollars, there was expertise, there was guidance and direction, but there were dollars available also for plans, for habitat management. And that's how we got involved. I came home and I talked to Emory about a plan that was being made known about the CP22s and the CP29s that were riparian buffer zones. We were already fencing those off.
In addition to riparian areas, stock ponds built for their cattle operation provide an added benefit for the wildlife on their ranch.
In 2006, we droughted out, not because we didn't have grass. We had grass, but we didn't have enough water. So in 2006, we started into a program where we needed to develop more water sources around the ranch. We went to NRCS, and under a cost-sharing program, NRCS has helped us build more than 7 tanks on the property. We call them tanks, stock ponds, around the property. And on our own dime, we've cleaned out about 7 to 10 other tanks around the property. What helped me understand about our grazing plan and the importance of our livestock operation came via my experience with the NRCS. We are first and foremost a cattle operation, and secondly, we want to preserve the habitat for our wildlife. So it'll be vital to continue a partnership with all of the government entities, but especially with NRCS.
Stay with us. We'll be right back on Voices of Agriculture.
You're tuned in to TFB Radio Network,
the #1 agricultural radio news network in Texas, based on the CUME rating in the 2009 Ag Media Research Study.
Are you a Texan? Are you a farmer or a rancher? Is Texas agriculture important to you? Do you care about the future of rural Texas? Perhaps you're concerned about property rights, stewardship of the land, and the next generation of farm and ranch families. If any of this describes your thinking, then you belong in the Texas Farm Bureau. Make your voice heard in the organization that is the voice of Texas agriculture. Call your County Farm Bureau office or visit us on the web at www.txfb.org.
Agriculture is Texas' renewable industry, not only growing food and fiber for Texas families, but creating 1 in 5 Texas jobs. I'm Mike Barnett, editor of Texas Agriculture. In our publication, you'll read profiles of the trendsetters of agriculture in the Lone Star State. We'll bring you profiles of farmers and ranchers surviving and thriving on the land and the issues shaping the future of rural Texas. Read all about it in Texas Agriculture, an exclusive benefit of your Texas Farm Bureau membership.
The capture of rainwater for human use is as old as history itself. Matt Felder has a story about new technology and old-fashioned Texas know-how putting a new spin on this ancient practice.
So I'm going to order one for you too.
In the past, Jan Collins had no source of drinking water on her property. She was forced to haul it in from town. Her household water came from the babbling creek that borders her land. That all changed when Collins chose to harness the water coming from above instead of below the surface.
I looked at the cost of putting in a well and determined that
it was not necessarily going to be cost effective for me, and even if I did drill a well, there was no guarantee that I was going to get water or it was going to be drinkable.
She turned to a local company, Rainwater Systems Inc., to help harvest what was falling from the heavens. Collins says the price was $4,000 less than drilling for the unknown. Using rainwater is not a new concept. The practice dates back to biblical times. Today, it's enjoying a revival in popularity due to the quality of rainwater and interest in reducing consumption of treated water. In the Texas Hill Country, residents will tell you the water quality fluctuates with ease. High amounts of sulfur, calcium, and iron are not uncommon.
Trying to soften it or trying to condition the water just to a point where you can take a bath in it, let alone drink it, becomes pretty difficult. And with rainwater, you eliminate all those problems.
Using the roof of a home, a network of gutters and PVC pipes, rainwater is funneled to a lined galvanized storage tank. A little more than ½ a gallon of water can be collected per square foot of collection surface per inch of rainfall. For a while, building these storage systems quickly went from a hobby to a full-time job.
It is gaining so fast that it's hard to keep up with just the telephone calls to answer questions for people, whether they're thinking about putting one in or they've already contacted us and we're working with them to put it in.
Customers such as Collins have even discovered they use less soap and cleaning products around the house due to the purity of rainwater.
It tastes good, it's soft, and we don't have spots on any of, like when you can look at my sink, it doesn't have those hard water spots, and it's just so much easier to live with.
People such as Collins and the Ertles build rainwater systems for a variety of reasons. Sometimes those reasons overlap. For Collins, it came down to being practical and economics. For the Ertles, it came with a purpose. The Ertles' home is on a different scale when it comes to putting Earth's gifts to use. Their 2,000 square foot home is completely off the grid, meaning not a single solitary municipal utility is hooked up. Nada, zilch.
We had a piece of property that just was begging to be off the grid, and so that's how we kept it.
Of course, the million-dollar question is, will there be enough rainfall to collect enough water? Short answer, yes. The rule of thumb is to build 9,000 gallons of storage for every person in the home. The Ertles have a 20,000-gallon tank and use anywhere from 500 to 700 gallons a month.
Our tank has been full for the last year, and most of the time when it rains, we see it overflowing and flowing down the hill. So once you get it full, it's pretty easy to maintain the supply that you need.
The only real maintenance is to change filters every 3 to 9 months and the UV light, which kills any potential pathogens, every year. Rainwater harvesting does favor the rural residents, but Wall says a collection system on any scale makes sense to all. He even takes it a step further with the opinion that rainwater collection systems are the present-day answer to the state's water worries.
I tell a lot of people that what's happening here is we have an influx of people coming in. Everybody's drilling water wells, and what they're really doing is just putting a new straw in an old Coca-Cola, and they're sucking the water out of the ground.
State and local governments seem to be rallying behind the idea. The Texas legislature passed laws in 2001 limiting sales tax on rainwater collection equipment. In Austin, residents and businesses can receive thousands in rebates. It's clear that the investment in such systems has far exceeded any expectations.
I've gotten out to where when I go visit friends and family, I take my drinking water with me because no matter what kind of water they have, it just doesn't taste as good.
For Voices of Agriculture, Matt Felder, Kerrville.
Well, that's our show for this time. Thank you for joining us on Voices of Agriculture from the Lone Star State of Texas. Please visit us on the web at www.txfb.org. This is Gene Hall, and for everyone from Voices of Agriculture, join us again next time.